Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. As most of us are aware, the ongoing Me Too movement has sparked protest, charges brought within the court system, and a sense of empowerment for victims of sexual assault. The Me Too movement, spearheaded by activist Tarana Burke in 2006, a sexual violence survivor, caught wave end of last year when actress Alyssa Milano tweeted about the campaign, calling those who have been sexually harassed or assaulted to write Me Too. Now, this gave victims a sense of encouragement to come and share their stories. We saw the likes of Lady Gaga, Sophia Bush, and Rosario Dawson all step out. And the Me Too and Time's Up movement has swept the Western world. Now, the question is, will Nigeria feel liberated, or Nigerian women feel liberated and empowered enough to speak up and discuss the same matters here? Because it's been pretty quiet around here. Joining us to discuss this, our guests of the day, Georgette and Labo Daniel. Welcome back, Georgette. Welcome to the morning show, Labo. Now, Nigeria has been quiet. This Me Too thing, we've talked about this. I've talked about it with my friends. I've talked about it with people. Like, why is it so quiet here? Is it a case of it not happening here?
I wouldn't say it's been quiet because, I mean, we had the Sex for Marks scandal, for example. And, I mean, an audio was released. The lecturer has been suspended. So the conversation started. Chimamanda also talked about her sexual assault case as well at 17, not here. But I don't know that. I think because our culture is a bit different, people are a bit scared to come out. So, for example, Monica Alsage, the Sex for Marks scandal lady in OAU, she didn't go. She actually didn't go for the committee. No, she didn't go for it. So what happened was, I think somebody released the audio and that happened. Chimamanda, even though she's even that big, she didn't mention her name. You know, because for me, I'm like, well, Chimamanda kind of talks. So I think that it's so, I would say it's, it has to be, what's it called? It has to be a community. Everyone has to work together. Because obviously you could tell that with Monica, it was probably her friends that released the audio recording. So I would say we had to find a way to just really work together. Even with Bill Cosby, it was the comedian's joke, it was Hannibal's joke. Somebody recording it and then it coming out and everybody's like, you know, actually, me too. You know, I've also had this. And I would just say we just all need to come together. We started talking. We start talking.
But Labo, the people you've mentioned now are not in the entertainment. I mean, you talked about the marks for the Sex for Marks. That's a university student. Chimamanda, okay, yes, Chimamanda.
It's creative.
She's a creative, but the core Nollywood. No, but you know, we used to hear stories about.
But are we looking for Nollywood, or are we looking for women to just come out?
I feel like we're looking for women to come out, but a lot of times celebrities are the ones that can actually push people to come out. You know, I feel like a celebrity coming out. Say for example, okay, let me not name names, but say no names. But like a huge actress now coming out to say this happened and this happened. That kind of actress has the platform now. Okay, so I mean, the person has probably reached a stage in her career where nothing can go wrong. If such a person comes out to speak, I feel like it would empower younger actors, younger actresses, younger musicians, younger people in the entertainment industry, and then spill over to the rest of society.
I think that's a very difficult fine. Like, it's a fine line, and the reason why it's a fine line is because of what you said. The kind of culture that we live in Nigeria is not a very nurturing environment when it comes to this sort of situation. If we think about the society that we live in now, we live in a society where, you know, children are born that have dyslexia, children that are born that have, you know, bipolar disorder. All of these things are not caused by anything, no fault of their own. It's just, you know, genetic. And yet you have parents that hide their children away from general public, that think that bipolar disorder is a form of madness, that somebody has done juju on their child. And, you know, you grow up with children who now have, you know, suffer from severe depression. And yet these are people who are not allowed to speak, or if they do speak, are shamed. I mean, even in formal conversations with, you know, members of society, you have people who say that, that if my child had died from depression, I will make sure, I'll bring them when they're alive, I'll kill them again for trying to kill themselves because they're depressed. I'm just like,
yeah, I think I've heard something.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like in their heads, it's like, oh, that there's no way that you could be so unhappy, you know, with the world, that you would be so selfish to kill yourself.
Because
you know,
for us here, I mean, with acting, there's already this. People are not, trust me, people don't exactly. Which is why for me I said, in Nigeria, are we looking out for actors to talk, or do we want people to begin to speak? Because the reality is, that industry is kind of a bit dodgy. people are like, oh, of course we. I don't know that.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be like, of course you opened your leg.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So
I don't know that the revelation there would
Yes.
happen. But I would say Lagos State, in terms of sexual assault, in terms of rape, I think Lagos State is doing really well in the whole of Nigeria. I think they're really doing well. Because again, for people, it's also what kind of legal system do we have? What kind of judiciary do we have?
Because a lot of times, the person who has done the act is somebody in probably a position of power.
Exactly.
Who has access to people, you know, and can sweep the case under the rug. I mean, what does this say about our legal system? And I know you cannot, yes, okay.
No, I can't. I mean, I have to. I don't mind. I mean, I would say two things. I would say that, you know, if we're talking about sexual harassment, you know, women have, and men actually have recourse under, you know, the Criminal Code Law of Lagos State, which, you know, codifies, you know, sexual harassment claims within the workplace, or sexual harassment that has occurred, that has made you do something that you didn't want to do originally, didn't want to have happen to you. And there's also, you know, recourse under, you know, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act in 2015, which was persons, yes, Prohibition Act, which was, you know, enacted in 2015 just before Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan had left office. That was his last piece of legislation. So there's actual recourse under the law for you if you really want to pursue it. The issue is not that there isn't, you know, a legal pathway for you to follow. The problem is dealing with the stigma, and the stigma is not just, you know, within Nigeria, but it's also in different places in the world. If we're talking about Bill Cosby, which you mentioned earlier, you know, I think Andrea Costan was, you know, accused of lying so many times. You know, there was a civil suit that was settled between herself and Bill Cosby. So people are like, so if you had your civil suit settled, why again are you coming to institute a criminal action against Bill Cosby again? This is now a witch hunt against him, you know, and it's so unfortunate because I don't know about you, but for me, I grew up watching the Bill Cosby Show.
Yeah, I did.
You know, and I've been hearing about these rumors for years, and you know, forgive me, but in my mind, I couldn't believe it. It just didn't seem true to me. And that's because, you know, us as a society in Nigeria, we find it very difficult to, I mean, not in Nigeria, but generally across the world, we find it very difficult to separate an actor's character from who they are as people.
I was going to say, I work in TV, I see a lot of things. So.
Yeah. You know, it'll be so difficult. And, you know, if we're talking about people in positions of power, you know, you could be, you know, a bank teller, or, you know, who works in marketing. I mean, that's a very typical example, but it crosses all spheres, you know, and it's like, oh, I want to get, you know, this brief, this banking brief. You send your finest women, they all go.
So it's, you know, this is across all industries,
it
really.
is.
And I get your point now about, like, it shouldn't just be the actors or the entertainers who should come out. Even though I still believe, like, okay, if my idol comes out to speak, then I feel empowered, or I'll be more empowered to speak. But yeah, you just rolled your eyes. You do not agree with me. But thank you so much for being on the show. And that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching from the entire morning show team here in Lagos. All that's left to say is enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye. Love all. So cynical.